Hello, my name is Archer.
And I'm Carson. The 1950s was a frontier decade that brought more efficient and better quality farming technology.
In the decades before the 1950s, the U.S. experienced the Great Depression and World War II. As World War II was coming to an end, more than 4 million men were coming home from the war, and soon after had children. Because of the increase in births, the U.S. population grew from 132 million in 1940 to 151 million in 1950, and there was great demand for more food. This meant that farmers needed to produce more food on the same amount of land quicker and more efficiently. New tractors, combines, fertilizers, and milking machines were among the best ways farmers increased their efficiency to fit the growing population's needs. These machines of the time were frontiers by shaping the way that farm equipment was made and used for generations to come. The equipment that farmers had pre-war was way less efficient than what came out after World War II. They had machines like the John Deere No. 36 Hillside Combine that would adjust to the ground so you could harvest on steep slopes. One drawback to this machine was that it was a pull-type combine, which was a combine that was pulled by a tractor. This was a slower process and less efficient because it required two machines. They also had tractors like the Model A that had a 26 horsepower engine. Pesticides were not used much before the war because the technology wasn't really there. Before the 50s, dairy barns had around 6 to 12 cows in them and were pretty small. The farmer had to milk the cows by hand and then walk the length of the barn to dump the milk. Overall, the equipment farmers used during the pre-war times was sufficient enough for the population then, but as the population grew, the machines had to grow with it. The market for pull-behind combines soon was taken over by self-propelled ones. Tractors in general became much more powerful and fuel-efficient. New types of fertilizers were introduced to increase crop yields, and new milking machines helped farmers save time and energy.
New machinery advances in the 1950s were kicked into high gear with the end of World War II. Farmers in the 1950s made up 15% of the workforce, and the average farm was about 215 acres. During the baby boom, there were 80 million new hungry children. This called for new farm technology to be invented to meet the needs of the times.
Strike up the band. It's harvest time in the vast wheat belt of North America. It's a big operation to harvest these millions of acres, and it takes big equipment like this.
The header automatically follows the slope of the ground. Look out there. Here comes the load right at you. Power steering permits you to handle this big machine like an automobile.
The 55 is truly the leader of the self-propelled.
In 1947, John Deere released the No. 55 combine. It was the most efficient self-propelled combine for its time because it had a transport speed of 9.5 miles an hour, a 45 horsepower engine, and a 45 bushel grain tank. The grain tank and engine were located behind the seat for improved balance and quieter operation, which had never been seen in farm equipment before. In 1955, John Deere introduced the No. 10 corn head. It was the first time farmers were able to get the corn from the cob to being cut and shelled in the same operation. Along with combines, tractors were also a big part of helping farmers increase their efficiency. During the early 50s, the John Deere Model G tractor production came to an end, and was succeeded with the new Models 70, 720, and 730. The Model G had a 34 horsepower gasoline engine, weighed about 5,000 pounds, and didn't have any power steering.
Here are tractors that step up earning power on farms of every size and type. John Deere.
The new Model 70 had a 45 horsepower diesel engine. This was the first diesel engine ever seen in a row crop tractor. Diesel engines give you more power, better fuel economy, and more reliability. The tractor weighed about 7,000 pounds by itself and 9,000 with added weight, or as farmers know it, ballast. The added weight increases stability and traction.
John Deere again made tractor history with the introduction of power steering
For quick, easy turns at the end of the field.
You bet power steering makes a difference.
These tractors included the industry's first power steering on a tractor. Power steering helps you make easier turns at the end of the field and was a staple for all tractors to come.
Along with combines and tractors, the increasing use of anhydrous ammonia in the 1950s helped bring higher yields to farmers by adding nitrogen to the soil. Nitrogen brings greater yields to plants by making them grow stronger. Pesticides and herbicides were also among the many ways that farmers could increase their yields. They killed off any of the bugs and weeds that could cause harm to the plants. The pesticides would increase the average output to $3 to $5 more per bushel. Between the 50s and the 70s, fertilizer usage doubled. The average crop loss before pesticides cost farmers about $4 billion in today's money. One downfall of pesticides and fertilizers was a pesticide called DDT. This chemical killed most of the young population of bald eagles and peregrine falcons. In the late 50s and early 60s, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency prohibited the use of DDT to help protect wildlife populations. Today, they use more environmentally friendly pesticides that don't harm the wildlife. The final advancement that we'll be talking about is the way cows were milked and used to help make more food. In the 1950s, the sizes of barns increased from 6 to 12 cows to 30 to 40 cows. Since there were so many cows in the barn had to get considerably longer. Because of this, milking became a very tedious task. You would have to milk the cow, then walk the whole length of the barn to dump the milk from your heavy steel bucket into the bulk tank. One of the ways they could be more time efficient was using a system for milk transport known as the step saver. The other option was the new automatic surge milker. You would attach the machine to the udders and it would automatically milk the cow. The milk would then go into a grade A stainless steel bucket and would be pumped into the bulk tank.
This is what daily life on the farm looked like for me in Broadhead, Wisconsin in the 1950s. In early April, I would get up and help milk the cows about 5 a.m. We had 27 cows to milk, and the equipment we used was surge milking machines. At the end of the milking at night, took them in an unattached milk house, and it had a sunken water tank in it. We would set the cream cans of milk in the water. Later in the morning, we would take the corn and oats to the grain mill into town to have it ground into feed, which we then added to the silage for the cows. During the day, we would get the fields ready for planting the corn and the oats. We would spray the corn crop for pests by hand as needed. In July, we harvested the oats and baled up the straw as bedding for the cattle. Then in the fall, we would pick the corn. We had 120 acres total.
The growing population during the post-war baby boom brought lots of hungry children into the world. The farm technology from the pre-war times was not efficient enough to feed all the new people and get the job done on time. The John Deere 55 combine and the Model 70 series tractor, along with the new use of chemical fertilizers and the surge milk machines, farmers were able to be more efficient than ever before with their time and money. These machines were significant because they helped shape the way that farm equipment was made and used for generations to come.
The machines American farmers use today are a product of the advancements during the 1950s. All of the machines we have talked about so far were built off previous stepping stones in farm technology. Over time, they became stepping stones for the machinery that we use today. Farmers with their new technology today feed 8 billion people, grow 778 metric tons of grain per year, and make up 10% of the workforce. America needed more food. Farms were not producing enough food to go around, and farmers needed new technology that was more efficient than ever. The growing population and the post-war baby boom during the 1950s was exactly when this happened. New tractors, combines, fertilizers, and milking machines were among the best ways farms increased their efficiency to fit the growing population's needs. These machines single-handedly allow the U.S. to export the most food supplies to other countries out of any other country in the world. The John Deere 55, John Deere 70 series, new pesticides and herbicides, and new milking machines set a frontier for the machines we have today. The John Deere X9 combine, John Deere 9RX, rotary milking machines, and better than ever pesticides and herbicides came because of the advancements during the 1950s. These new farming practices were frontiers by shaping the way that farming technology would be made and used for generations to come.